Welcome to the Family Law Growth Podcast. We interview the nation's fastest growing family law firms to get insights on what is working today. We leave no stone unturned, from intake to the biggest mistakes they've made while scaling to multi-7 figures and 8 figures. I'm your host, Elliot, co-founder of Empirical 360. Let's dive into the episode. How's it going, everybody? So Elliot here with the Family Law Growth Podcast. I am joined by Mark Reel, the CEO and founder of Real Fathers Rights. So we're super excited to have Mark on this episode. He's going to hopefully share some cool tactics, tricks, strategy with you guys. So Mark, thank you for being on the episode.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Elliot.
Yeah, no, really excited. So do you want to just kind of give everybody a background on the firm, like what you guys do, where you do it, and kind of like what's happened in the last 5 years, stats, headcount, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, definitely. So I am based out of Corona, California, so just outside of Los Angeles. I founded Real Fathers Rights in June of 2021. It was just me, myself, and I out of my 1-bedroom apartment in Corona, California. And over the last 4.5 years, we have grown. This quarter, we'll hit a $20 million run rate. We have about 85 full-time people, about 20 attorneys. And we were also this year, we were named by Inc. the fastest growing law firm in the United States.
Insane stuff. So this is actually exciting because a lot of times when you talk to firms like this size, they're usually like, 20 plus years old. And so what I'm excited about for this episode is how do you grow like this in today's market? Because today's market is a lot harder than like yesterday's market, right? So Mark, what was your first consistent source of clients and how has that evolved over time for you? Like, was it referrals, word of mouth? Like, what did that look like?
Yeah. So when I started the firm, I was already active in the fathers' rights and equal and shared parenting communities. So my sources of leads were from 2 places. Number one is I was already active in those areas. And I had actually reached out to the media director of one of the larger groups, told him I was going to start a podcast. And he said, why don't you do it on our channel? So I'd been an attorney for a week and I'm on a live stream with 40,000 people on it that got 150,000 views. So that was one of those things that kind of the effort and the groundwork was laid prior to. And then I made the ask, let people know what I was doing. The second one, this was pre-LSA days, but my second lead source was PPC. And Elliot, you know the story of this at this point in time. I'd actually found Empirical 360 and I had $700 in my bank account. So I gave Elliot my last $700 and a $500 a month budget. 500 was intentional because I found out Google doesn't bill you until you've spent $500 with them. And within about, I think it was 25 hours, I had $3,500 in cash in my pocket to be able to pay the Google ad spend. And I think we increased the budget to $3,000. So I paid off what I had and then immediately put the next $3,000 towards more leads. So we were both organic, social, really using other people's platforms, not my own at the time, and then PPC.
Nice. And so did you ever have strong referrals other than like those partner platforms, or was it just like really paid and social to kick you off?
Yeah, it was paid and social. And I built a brand really, really early. My core fundamental belief about business moving forward is every business is a media company on the front end and then delivers a good or service on the back end. And so that's how I treated my law firm. I needed to build the brand. I needed to build the media company on the front end to be able to bring clients in, make them aware of what I do, make them aware of who I am, and bring them into our business. I have never seen the value in today's marketplace of the one-to-one referral piece. I've had conversations with very successful rainmakers in different geos that we operate in, and they'll talk about, I'm going to generate $800,000, $1 million this year, and they'll be top producers in the entire market. And I go to like 3 bar events, maybe a year. I do almost no networking. And I'm like, I'm going to personally generate $16 to $18 million this year.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the leverage you get when it's not one-to-one, right? So when you started, what was your thought around like your brand? Because you guys have a pretty dialed in brand, and a lot of people are either afraid to take a leap and exclude people or lean into like a particular avatar. Can you talk me through why you did that and like how it's paid off? Do you ever have FOMO of not going after everybody? Like, what does that look like for you?
So a lot of people want to paint this as I was some brilliant marketing mind that comes up with this niche or anything like this. I'm a father. I have 8-year-old twins. And when they were born back in 2017, I ended up in family court. And so when I started my law firm, I could not see myself representing mom. And at the time, I did all of them. And so I was like, I can't see myself representing the mom, not because I have something against moms, anything like that, but because I resonated with the fathers. And so I ran with that. So there was no big marketing epiphany, anything like this. Realistically, I was just being true to myself and trying to create a company and a job that I wanted to do.
So it wasn't like this genius marketing. The name just happens to work really well. Real Fathers Rights. Have you ever felt though like I could go capture more market share, or have you ever felt like again a fear of missing out? Because a lot of people are always afraid to take this leap. Like I talk to people and they're like, I only want to work with this person. What's your mindset around that? What advice would you give them if they wanted to niche?
Yeah, I mean, for me, when you talk specifically about family law, the total addressable market in the United States is going to clear $80 billion in the next few years annually. And 75% of that money is spent by men. So I'm addressing a $60 billion a year market in one of the biggest legal markets in the United States. There's plenty to go around. There are plenty of more men that we could help and we could impact. Now, I'd be lying to say if there haven't been times where we've talked and we've discussed and we said, hey, Real Fathers Rights is a $100 million idea, but scaling it up and making it more broad and adding other practice areas could be $1 billion idea. So I'd be lying to say if we haven't had those discussions, we haven't had those conversations. I can say that there's no time in the foreseeable future where we would change or adjust, because there's so much out there and there's so much impact. For me, it always goes back to I'd been practicing for about 3 weeks, and I showed up at the San Bernardino courthouse, and opposing counsel was one of those established, been around forever kind of guys. He comes up and he tells me, he's like, hey, it's really cool what you're doing, but I just want to let you know that you're just immediately cutting off half of your potential clients. And I really don't think what you're going to do is going to work. And I can say I went and looked at his website last week. It's still just him. He's serving everybody. We got 20 attorneys here, nearly 100 full-time team members that are servicing our niche and our client.
Yep. Yeah. So when you talk to everybody, you talk to nobody, and you could be way more dialed, right? So what was
go
your
back to that? That is the key in any marketing. It's putting your message out to the masses and your ideal client feeling like you're talking directly to them. The more broad your message is, the fewer people that feel like you're actually connecting with them.
Yep. Yeah. And especially because, and your message is also powerful too, because you've been through it yourself. So that adds even more credibility to the overall messaging, and you can talk to them. So when you started, did you have this mindset of like, I'm going to grow to this insane number, or did you start like slow and you kind of fell into the trap of being a lawyer and just lawyering for the first few years? Like, what was your mindset around growth?
I think my mindset, or I know my mindset, was to build what we have today here at Real Fathers Rights. I don't know if I ever expected it to happen as quickly as it did. I'm a big person of, if you can't visualize where you're going, if you can't see where you want to be, if you can't put that vision in your head, you're not going to get there. So it was something where I saw this. Did I see myself potentially practicing a little bit more than I do? I don't really take too many cases. I don't spend too much time in court really at all in most months. Did I see myself maybe doing that a little bit more? Yes, but I think putting that vision out there of, this is what I want to build, this is the impact I want to have. I don't necessarily think there was money involved and it's like, hey, we're going to get to $20 million revenue or we're going to do this. It was always around the number of fathers we were going to be able to impact if I was able to grow and scale this.
And so how did you make that jump? Because I find a lot of like a lot of family attorneys are in this swamp where there's too much work for their current team and not enough work to hire predictably. And they want out of production. How did you get out of production? Were there steps you took? And then like, what would you tell that person that's like stuck and they're literally working 100 hours a week and they can't see an end to it?
Yeah. I think in family law, I think kind of defining that space, depending on the person, anywhere from, you use the term swamp, there's the messy middle, there's all sorts of different terms that are used for it, but probably $500,000 to $1 million, all the way up to $5 million is what I would refer to as like the swamp or the messy middle. It's a really, really challenging space because you can run a $500,000, a lot of times even $1 million law firm and not be stressed out of your mind, make good money, be successful. You're just doing it all. And really, it takes breaking through probably that $4 to $5 million range before you get some clarity and you're like, I can actually step away. My only piece of advice for people that are going through the messy middle or going through that challenging time is that's when you're going to have to put your foot on the gas pedal. There's no magic trick to it. There's nothing special. When I was in that space, I was billing 200 plus hours a month. I was doing 6 to 10 consultations a day. And I was working 16 or 18 hours a day. That's what got us through the messy middle. That's what got us through that space where, hey, I don't have the ability to hire a $100,000 executive to build out my business operations, or I don't have the ability to hire 2 more attorneys to cover the caseload I'm covering. There are periods in time in that space of like, we'll say $500,000 to $5 million where you're looking to grow, where you're just going to have to put your head down and outwork everyone around you.
So this is exactly how I feel about it too. There's no magic bullet. There's no like tactically, how did that look for you? So you worked what, every day of the week, and then did you spend money on marketing that you didn't have? Like what came first, or was it just like, we got to go and let's hope we get out on the other side? Like what did it look like? Cause I want to describe it for people so they know that the stuff you see on social is BS, and there's like, you got to grind for some periods.
Yeah, and this is not like hustle porn or anything like that. It was very tactical. So I was the only attorney. I eventually got a couple of attorneys that kind of helped me get out of that space. But I would wake up at 4 a.m. every morning. From 4 to 7 a.m. was prepping for court. So I'd make sure I'd reviewed all my files, because a lot of times I was doing 2, 3, 4, 5 court appearances in a day. So I would be prepping all my files, reviewing all my documents, confirming with clients that they were going to be in court and what time, telling them what time I expected to be there. And then 8:30 to about 12:30, I was in court every day, usually multiple courthouses with a phone appearance, just juggling every which way. I would drive back to the office, and at 1 p.m. was when my consultation started. From 1 p.m. to 6 p.m., I was in consultations pretty much straight through every single day. So I would go out and I'd do 10 consultations every single day. And then once I got done with that, I would drive home. My girlfriend at the time, now wife, would have dinner ready. I would eat dinner real quick. And by 7:30, I would be in my office. I would be at my desk, and I would be doing all the legal work that needed to get done. And my rule is, when I got to midnight, I would just stop, because I knew I was going to have to be up at 4 a.m. the next day. That was Monday through Friday, every single Monday through Friday for probably 6 to 8 months. Then on Saturdays, I would do 16 consultations. So I'd work a full 8 hours doing consultations. And then I'd only work 6 hours on Sundays. I'd do 12 consultations. So, and then any legal work that maybe needed shoehorned in there. So I went really the first 18 months my firm was open, I did not take a single day off. I worked every single day. And I would say I probably worked at least 6 or 7 hours, and many times more like 20 hours every single day.
So what was the next phase of that after you went through that like insane, like heads down work? When did it start to become a little bit more breathable? Like a little more, like let's say somebody has kids and stuff and they can't go that hard because they don't have maybe the big goal that you did. What would be the next phase of, okay, I'm grinding. How do I get above water a little bit?
Yeah. So the first thing you want to look at is you want to look at what your day looks like. You literally want to create a pie chart of your day. And you need to look at everything in that pie chart and you need to say, should I be doing this? Or would it be more effective for me to hire someone to do this? My first thing was I started realizing I didn't love being in court. So my first move was, prior to that, first thing was I need to free up some time. So I hired 2 paralegals because they were going to be able to do all the paperwork and stuff now. So I just bought a little bit more of my time back. Next thing was, okay, the next biggest chunk in my day are these court appearances. So I went out and over a 3-month period hired 3 attorneys. So now I didn't have to do nearly as many court appearances. And I slowly went around. The next move is he's now my COO, but I got Jack to come on board and he was business operations. So now all of a sudden he's doing the consultations, he's doing the billing, he's doing the client success. So you need to look at what your day is composed of, and you got to make one of 2 choices. Either you need to hire someone to do what you're not great at or don't like doing, or hire someone to do the lowest cost tasks and you kind of keep grinding on the bigger, higher value stuff. So you want to look at it and you want to buy your time back. And you want to do that in segments, because the biggest mistake that happens when people get to kind of this point is they start buying their time back, but they don't fill that time they bought back with stuff that's moving the business forward. They just want to be out of the work to not do the work. I still work 8, 10, 12 hours a day. It's doing what I love. I'm in front of the camera on social media, or I'm working on marketing stuff, or I'm handling bigger picture CEO work. But you want to buy your time back and then fill it with bigger picture tasks, higher value tasks to keep driving your firm forward.
Love it. So, and what I'm trying to get out of, and I think he's given them, right, is good tactical answers for people stuck in that swampy area. Cause there's like the social media answer, okay, grind. And then all of a sudden you have this awesome firm. And then there's like, okay, he worked very hard for an extended period of time to get out, which I just think most people don't realize what it takes. So what investments, like hires, or like, I know you've gone through a lot of coaching and stuff. Did you make that, would you say led you to like the highest ROI, or like, what would you recommend people who are, again, in that messy middle, like what investment should they be making on the staff side of things and then like development side of things for themselves?
Yeah. Number one is no one's coming to save you. You're going to have to be your own hero. So the number one investment you need to make is on yourself. I tell people my law firm and its growth journey started well before I even passed the bar exam, when I was working in the fitness industry and COVID shut us down. And I became obsessed with, in 2020, I actually read 103 books, listened to 53 more on audio, and did 17 courses. Like I literally was like, when everything was shut down, that's all I did. So the number one thing is, a lot of attorneys, they'll point their finger at their marketing agency or their coach or their accountant or whatever it may be. But everyone I know in this space that's successful doesn't ever look for anyone else to solve their problems. They just go out and get it done. Now, do we purchase people's time to help time compress and solve these problems quicker? 100%. But never do I look at a problem and it's like, who am I going to get to fix it? Like I'm going to go fix it. How am I going to fix it and take ownership for that? So number one investment is always got to be yourself. Because there's a reason why I get this a lot. Well, hey, you get different service from vendors. You get different. They make sure you're successful. No, I make sure we're successful. My team makes sure their departments are successful. That you're getting the same product. It's just how you utilize it. So investing in yourself and stop looking around. In terms of your team, it's really going to depend on your skill set. So the cool thing in legal coaching is like, get yourself out of consultations, get yourself out of legal work. Like every single person has their different spin on things, on what success looks like. But that doesn't mean that that is what success looks like for you. For example, I know a very successful attorney in the Carolinas who I've known for probably 4 or 5 years now. He was obsessed with becoming the CEO, getting himself out of the casework. And after about 3 years of that, I get a call from him and he's like, Mark, I had it all wrong. I need to handle three or four of our highest profile cases and make a shit ton of money for this firm. And I need to hire my operator. So you have to figure out what success looks like for you. Like for me, my weakest attribute, I was very green. I never had any mentors, anything else as an attorney. So I wasn't great as an attorney. I needed to get myself out of that. But I was a lot slower and hung on to consultations a lot longer. Like I sold several $1 million of gym memberships and personal training and everything like that. I don't think there's very many attorneys who can sell at the level I can sell at. So I hung on to that. Now at this point, I still hang on to marketing very tightly. Elliot, you know this. Because I don't think there's many people who can do it better than I can do it. But that doesn't mean it's one size fits all. People look at it and say like, oh, you're not in core, you don't do consultations, you do things. I still have you look at my calendar today, I have back-to-back meetings the rest of the day in my specific lane in the business. So I think you really have to determine what you are great at or what you want to do, not even what you're great at. Because I think you can make yourself great at just about anything. Outside, if you want to play in the NBA and you're only 5'8". So find out, it's really determine what you want to do and build your team around it so that you get to do that. Now, the catch is if you decide you want to fill this role in the firm, you better make yourself really, really good at it or you're going to get exposed over and over again.
So tactical question for you here. Let's say that you're not great at sales, for example, and you need to fill that role. How do you interview for a role that you're not good at? Like, what do you look for, or what advice would you give someone if like you're hiring a COO type guy and you're not a COO? How do you get that guy?
So first of all, I think the biggest piece of under-leveraged, the most under-leveraged tactic in the legal industry is picking up your damn phone, because there are levels to this game. Like, just I'm going to be completely candid. There are people I could get their phone number, give them a call, and we would talk today. That maybe if you're at $500,000, you're not going to have the ability to do that. But you need to find someone who you can connect with that's done it before. That the biggest mistake is they fly blind. And I see a lot of firms trying to go to non-attorney consultations, and they have no experience as a sales manager. They have no experience in sales. The reason our team scaled and grew, I was a top performing salesperson, a top performing sales manager. I was a general manager in a sales-based organization. My COO had done all those same things. So you go in, you say, hey, I want a non-attorney salesperson. And what's the attorney do? Elliot, I know you've seen this. They take their second best paralegal or their best paralegal, and it's like, this is our intake person now. You just failed. You need to dive in and understand the role. And the easiest way to do that is there's probably someone that's at your level that's doing it and doing it well, and going out and finding that person. And a lot of times it comes from being in different coaching communities, being in different circles, finding that person that you can reach out to and say, hey, what tips would you give me? Because we'll talk to firms, and I know you do this too, Elliot. They're in this hiring process and hiring salespeople, and they have no idea what they're actually hiring for. And I mean, like you and I'm sure if we sat down and talked about it, have different theories. Like my theory for a salesperson is I want a job they've done high volume sales in, and then I want them to have had the shittiest job possible on their resume. Like, give me someone who's sold solar door to door, and I'll hire that person onto my team every single day. Give me someone who's sold gym memberships and was also a janitor. I'll take them every single day. That's what works on my team, and that's what's worked over the course of my sales career. So I think we're talking specific to that, but it's like if you're hiring a role, you don't really know what you're doing, you need to gain some insights. And there's someone at your level who it may be them. Like they may be a phenomenal operator. They may be a phenomenal salesperson. They may have that sales manager in their background, but finding resources so you can gain insights, because hiring blind is setting yourself up for failure in any role.
Yeah. And I've seen this where it literally will hurt them for months, and sometimes just it'll drag the department down for 6 months, and then now you got to start over, right? So that first, especially in the sales department, right, that first hire is like really rough. So I want to get into some of that, right? Because I want to get into the tactics. But you were going to say something else on it?
Yeah, well, I was going to say that what I've seen over and over again is you put someone who is an A or B player, say as a paralegal, and you move him into the sales role, and they're terrible. And most of them are. Nothing against it. It's different skill sets to be a great paralegal versus be a great salesperson. I could never be a great paralegal. I'm amazed at when I see a great paralegal operate. I'm amazed at what they do because I'm not capable. But you move someone who's an A player because you trust them, whatever, into this role. They suck at it. They drag the department down for 6 months. You turn around, you look at Elliot and say, hey, see, this doesn't work. And you're like, well, we knew it wasn't going to work. Now you're going to have the awkward conversation of moving them back or getting rid of them and hiring the right person. But most lawyers compound their mistake in that situation. You make a bad first hire, then you are scared of making another mistake and you don't take another chance at it. That's the one that gets me is I'm okay. Hey, you took your shot. You thought this person was going to be great. It didn't work out. But then they take the consultations back on themselves because, oh, see, no one else can do it.
Yep. I literally have a couple doing that right now, and some of them that are sticking through it. The painful part, which is like, damn, I gotta start over, and it sucks, and it costs money, right? That's the game.
Yeah.
So before we get into, I want to get into some like tactics on your marketing and sales stuff, like specific setups and things that you can give the audience. But what was like your biggest mess up that you had to push through acquisition wise? Like, was it a terrible marketing campaign? Was it like a wasted salesperson? Like, what did that look like, and then how did you move past it?
So I'll start out by saying that I've probably made more mistakes in 4.5 years than the average lawyer does in their entire career. I think that's the recipe for success. We shoot so many more shots than anyone else. What comes to mind? I'll tell you one recently that is infuriating. It's not necessarily financially the biggest deal or anything like that, but our verification on our LSA ads went down, and it took us 11 days to get it up and running. And when you start running larger marketing budgets, underspending on your marketing budget is just as bad as overspending. So you have intake people that are sitting there with no consultations, and we underspent by like $35,000. So that's a couple hundred consultations that we missed out on over an 11-day period. But I go back and it's like, in my early days, I tried to buy myself through things with people who weren't right fits. At one point in time, I hired an attorney and gave them the opportunity to work their way into equity. Didn't work out, kind of exploded. It cost a lot of money legally to get out of that. I also think about, we tried to do estate planning at one point in time. We ran $30,000 in marketing in a 30-day period, and we generated 2 leads. So we have failed. We had a deal with a radio station. We had a deal with ESPN out here in Los Angeles, and we loved it. It made sense. This is our market. We generated almost no traffic in the first 12 months from our partnership with them. So I could give the laundry list. The list of things that have went wrong is significantly longer than the list of things that have went right. And that, I think that's one thing I always preach to people is like, there's a book by Simon Sinek, The Infinite Game. And we view business a lot of times as like a football game. There's a specific set of rules. Who wins is determined by those rules. We're playing the same game, same rules, same goal. Business is not that way. Business, there's an unknown number of competitors. They can come and go as they please. Success and winning is different for every person. And then you look at it that way, and it's like, yeah, in football, if your quarterback goes 0 for 15 on his first 15 passes, that's pretty bad. But all I need is one completion to score 100 points in business, where I'm limited to 7 in football.
Yep. It's like that Jeff Bezos quote. I would say it, but I'd butcher it. But anyway, it's something to do with baseball. Another example. But so I like to ask that, right? Because then it helps people understand, like, if something has punched you in the face recently, everybody has that long list. You only need a couple winners to really make it to a really large, family law firm. So let's go into some tactics, if you don't mind, with as much or as little as you can. What does your acquisition process look like? Like, what was what does that whole process look like? Because you guys close a very large amount of cases per month, month in and month out. What does it look like?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm probably a lot different than a lot of people on this. So there's going to be some people like saying you can't do it this way, whatever. I don't care. We're successful with it. But our acquisition process is not to get into kind of the marketing machine, but we're at this point, we're pretty multiple in terms of what we do on marketing, whether it's Google, Meta, awareness-based stuff like programmatic, out of home. So there's a lot of different things going on. But essentially, the journey is once a client calls us, as long as they are generally in our practice area and generally in our geographic area, our reception team does not discriminate too tightly on this. Like if it might be, could be, they go ahead and pass it on. You get passed on usually within 2 to 24 hours. Most people are sub 8 hours. You have a case evaluation scheduled with a non-attorney. And we do 25-minute case evaluations. Each of our intake specialists, salespeople, whatever you want to call them, we refer to them as intake specialists, but they're our closers. They'll do anywhere from 8 to 14 case evaluations in any given day. And so this process goes from phone call to close is sub 24 hours for 99% of people who call our firm.
Wow.
Yeah.
So lead comes in, it goes to who does, like, without saying like too much, but like, do you have an in-house reception team? Do you use a service? What are you using for that?
Yeah, we have in-house. So we have our reception team is all over the world, but completely in-house. So we have 17, I believe it is, 17 full-time receptionists. We have 24-hour coverage. They are all over the world. They speak all different languages. And so you talk to someone in-house. We do have a reception service as a backup that can cover some overflow, but they kind of take on just nominal numbers of calls a week. So yeah, you call in, you're completely in-house. They identify, is this an existing client or is this a potential new client? If it's an existing client, it gets funneled over to the appropriate legal team member to help that client. If it's not, we go through the process of the very minimal qualifications it takes to get a case evaluation and then getting them as quickly as possible on one of our intake specialist calendars.
Okay, so you don't do a live transfer to intake specialists. You do a calendar invite. Are you using like Calendly, HubSpot? What are you guys using for that?
Yeah. So we use Calendly. We don't do the live transfer. We actually found when we did the live transfer, our close rate went down about 5%. We attribute it to the intake specialist didn't get to review the information on the client. They were kind of doing it on the fly. And potentially the potential new client felt a little rushed. They call in to schedule an appointment and all of a sudden they're being presented with a buying decision.
That's a big nugget right there for those of you listening. I'm sure he tested that. And so what he used to do was intake or reception to intake live transfer all in one. He then switched it to intake, book an appointment on a calendar. And then what do you guys have as far as a lot of people are concerned, right? If you book a meeting, they have low show rates. How are your show rates impacted by that switch?
Our show rates are anywhere from 80 to 85% on any given month. And that includes also the individuals who there's text follow-ups, there's different things going on that maybe get self-select as this is not a fit. So gotcha. I will say the one thing is the scheduling. We found that if you can keep them scheduled under 3 hours, you're probably going to have an 85 to 90% show rate. Once you go to 12 hours is when you're going to get in probably the 80% range, 75 to 80. Once you go over 12 hours, there's kind of a steady decay and decline in show rate because what they've done is they called your firm and scheduled. Then they called the next person on the MAPS 3-pack and the attorney answered the phone and did a consultation right there. So gotcha. Speed is still a very, very big deal. But we've just found close rate is significantly higher if both sides have a chance to kind of catch their breath, even if it's only a half hour.
Wow. So you have 17 reception people. How come you didn't go the route of like a press one to talk to legal, press 2 to talk to new clients, or have you tried that?
All right. So not to get too deep into this story, but that's one of my biggest pet peeves. So I worked in professional baseball, and the phone tree would drive me crazy. So I think a phone tree is the most awful thing you can put a potential new client through, let alone an existing client who should be treated even better. Now, I think there probably is space for, like, hey, press 1 if you're an existing client, opposing counsel, whatever. Press 2 if you're a potential new client. I think you probably could get away with that. But I know some firms that have like 5 and 6 step phone trees. And I just want to let you know, I hate you just like your clients do. So
Yeah. And some people think it's an answering machine they hang up, right? So I was hoping to get some kind of reaction out of it. I got exactly what I wanted out of that one.
yeah.
So you said you have not attorney salespeople. For people who have never heard of such a thing, how do they have a 25-minute conversation, not give legal advice, and close a potential new client? What does that sound like or look like?
Yeah. So, fun fact number 1, for all the attorneys that are listening, you're not as important or skilled as you think you are. I want to start there. Number 2 is the person doesn't actually want you to solve their problems. That's not what they're looking for. In family law specifically, that's not necessarily what they're looking for in that moment. Most people understand that their problems are not going to get solved today. Their problems are not going to get solved tomorrow. What they're looking for is hope and a path forward. And what do non-attorney salespeople do significantly better than attorneys? They don't try to solve their problems because they tell them up front, I'm not an attorney. I'm not going to give you legal advice. My job's to gather information, see if you're the right fit, and then get you set up with the right person. So empathy is a word we use a lot in that room, is that people are going through some of the roughest times in their life, and they want someone to listen and hear them, and not necessarily to solve their problems. I think we've all had that person, whether it's our wife, fiance, girlfriend, husband, boyfriend, and they're telling us the problems, and we immediately jump in with a solution on how to fix them. And it just makes them more angry. That's kind of the same situation. So we disarm them with like, hey, you're not going to get tactical legal advice today. My job, and we frame it in a way, we frame our consultations in, this is an interview to determine if you are a good fit for the firm. So we immediately flip that conversation, but it's really about listening to them, just hearing them out. A lot of times, this is the first time they've got a lot of this stuff off of their chests. And so having someone who's skilled at listening and hearing people and understanding what they're saying and showing them kindness and empathy, that's a lot of times what they're looking for. They're not looking for someone to jump in and I'm going to file this and this and this, and in 90 days you're going to get this. They want someone to say, I hear you, you matter, and we're going to get you on the right path.
Very nice. And so how do you find, so you kind of mentioned you're looking for people with some sales experience who have like an outbound or a door knocking. Do you recruit for those on LinkedIn? Do you just kind of like in network? Like, how do you find these people and how do you train them up? Like, what does training look like?
Yeah. So finding them, I think anytime, and this could be for any role, whether it's attorney, whether it's salesperson, paralegal, an executive, a marketing team member, anytime you're looking for candidates in one place, you're going to fail when you become too dependent on one source. So we post, we use a software. We have a full recruiting software that actually allows us to post jobs internally. You can see it on our website, everything. But the cool part about it is this software also pushes out the job postings to all of the job posting sites. So we post it one place internally, it gets pushed out. If we need a fast fill or it's kind of a more exhaustive search, we'll use LinkedIn. We usually post, we'll always have that one free job, whatever our highest ROI job we're hiring for, we'll have it as a free post on LinkedIn. But if it's a high leverage job, we need to fill it fast. We will do paid LinkedIn ads. We'll utilize my social medias to post online, do that type of stuff. And then also the number one source of talent, you don't want to become too reliant on it, is we will ask the people. We will ask the people in that room, hey, do you know anyone? And in our sales room, there are people who I knew from before my time as a lawyer. There are people who were referrals from current team members. There were cold inbound applications. There were warm outreach to people we targeted as having the skill set we wanted. So I think getting really, when you're looking for a role, understanding that the right candidate could come from any one of these locations. Like if I was looking for a salesperson today and I had one, if I just had one salesperson, I would go to them and be like, hey, who are the top 3 salespeople you've ever worked with? All right, hey, you could text them and see if they'll get on a phone call with me? Oh, they got a job and they're happy right now? Don't care. You think they would talk to me? I would be posting on every single job board that I could get my hands on. And if you're really in an urgent spot or you're being aggressive, is go ahead and pay for Indeed, pay for LinkedIn. LinkedIn has some phenomenal tools that are pricey with LinkedIn Recruiter that you can see who's applying. You can see if a person's applying for jobs. You can see if they've quietly opened themselves as open for work. So there's a bunch of tools. Don't pigeonhole yourself into one spot, because I know attorneys who they post on Indeed or Monster and then LinkedIn, and then they just kind of sit there. Recruiting is a contact sport, is an active sport. Whether you're hiring an attorney, paralegal, salesperson, executive, you're going to have to get out there and get your hands dirty.
So full court press really on hiring a salesperson. And then what would you like, if you're interviewing this person, what are you looking for? Are you looking for like a smooth talker? Are you looking for somebody who's, had sales background? Like what's your number one red flag and what would be a green flag pretty much?
Ooh, okay. So let's start with the green flags. I always joke, I'm super simple on what I would look for. I don't necessarily review the resumes now, but what I would look for in a salesperson. I want someone in a law firm setting. You're going to ask, especially those first people, to do high volume sales. Understand that sales is fundamentally different when it is short sales cycle, high volume versus long sales cycle, low volume. If I had someone come in, and I'll use insert Salesforce. I know Salesforce has a very long sales cycle. If I had someone who had worked and had some success at Salesforce, well, their sales cycle is 6, 9, 12 months. A lot of times it's enterprise deals that are multiples of millions of dollars. That's not what we're doing. We're doing high volume. I mean, your intake person should be doing probably 6 to 12 consultations every single day. So I want them to come from an industry where they had high reps. Cell phones, fitness, a lot of the door-to-door stuff, whether it's solar, security, different things like that. We had some success with people who sold mortgages. When mortgage rates were low, they were selling refis on mortgages, high volume, outbound, on the phone. Now, on the backside of that is that we work in an industry that traditionally has very, very bad close rates compared to a lot of industries. When I worked in sales, if you didn't close 60% of your people who walked in the door, you were failing. And you have to understand, if you're giving someone 10 consultations in a day, if they're successful one time a day, that is an absolute rock star salesperson. So if they're closing 20 clients a month, one a day, they are a rock star. But it's taking them over 200 consultations to do that. That's a lot of no's. That's where my requirement number 2 is. I want to see a terrible job in their past. Like, it doesn't even have to be sales related. Like, if I look at the resume, and you look at a resume and you see that one line item of a job and you're like, that sounds awful. I want that from an intake resume. Like, I want to see that you were a janitor. I wanted to see you worked overnight at an Amazon factory. Like, I want to see those things, because it takes some fortitude to be 0 for 9 and calling person number 10 and saying this person's going to close. So I want to see someone who showed up and did something really tough over a period of time. Now, in terms of red flags, I think for me, it is jobs that on their face appear to be sales jobs, but in reality are order taker jobs. There's a lot of people that have account executive or different things like that, or they were an account executive or a salesperson in the marketing space or something like that. And it's just fundamentally different. I want the gold standard of an application that's going to get fast tracked on an interview with RFR is someone who, okay, first thing is they got that shitty job on their resume. Huge bonus points if that shitty job was the sales job. And then, yeah, and then the other thing that kind of I said number one was high volume sales. If it was high volume sales, selling something that they do not deliver. So that's another kind of little intricacy. So I'll give you my fitness example. So I was a salesperson in the fitness industry. Well, most people think, oh, hey, salespeople in the fitness industry are selling memberships. No, the memberships are a given. You walked in the door, we expect you to buy a membership. We're selling you personal training, but we're not personal trainers that are going to deliver it. So finding someone who sold professional services or sold some other, like where they're not the person who's going to deliver it and they have no control over it. So they can't give you a trial. They can't say, hey, this is what's going to happen. That's kind of the carrot on top of that number one, which is high volume sales. If it's a good or service that they were not involved in the delivery of, that's a plus. And number two, the shitty job, if it was a sales job, that's a plus as well.
So you like that because they can't make exceptions to get the deal done pretty much. Like
you can't give anything away. Like, hey, when I was selling personal training and fitness, I couldn't be like, yeah, Isaiah will give you an extra session like that. No, like I can't do that.
That's really good advice. And then how do you, so like, because I mean, there's a lot there, honestly. I would go back. I'm probably going to go back and rewatch that a few times. But how do you train these people? Like, do you start them on reception? Do you throw them right at the fire? Do you have them rep scripts? Like, what does your training process look like?
Yeah, so it's evolved over time. I will say this. I did something that most people probably wouldn't have the ability to do. My first salesperson was my right hand in the fitness industry. He was the best man at my wedding. Like, I have implicit trust in everything he does. And then my second, third, and fourth hires were all people that I had worked with before. And all of them are managers now here at RFR. So what do we do now? There, we hired highly skilled salespeople who we knew were killers and knew how to track record. And our script was kind of modeled after what we did to sell at 24 Hour Fitness because we'd all worked together there. So we kind of gave them a script that was that script that we had broke all kinds of company records using, and we modified it for family law. Now, today, someone comes in and you're probably not going to get on the phone for probably 3 to 4 days. You're not going to be on your own call, but you are going to spend probably 4 hours each of your first 3 days with our sales manager going over the script, going over how we overcome objections, really the RFR way. And you're going to have the script nailed down before you're allowed to get on the phone. The other half of your day is we're going to put you with a couple of our top performers, and you're going to throw a headset on and you're going to be listening to them do intake calls. So it's part kind of classroom textbook learning. We're going to get you up to speed. You're going to understand where your resources are. Here's a couple copies of the script for you to write on. We're going to role play. And the other half is just listening to live action. And usually within about a week, someone's on the phone and is taking a full allotment of consultation. So it's very fast. It's give them the best training, give them the resources, and then let them hear how it's done, and then set them free. If you're taking any more than a week to 10 days to put a salesperson on the phone, you've probably made the wrong hire because they're so far away, at least for the short term, they're so far away from where they need to be. Honestly, a good salesperson, you give them a script and they're like, all right, I can do this. Let me get on the phone. Like they don't, it doesn't need, now, I mean, is there upskilling or there are other things? 100%. But if you hire a good salesperson, you hand them the script, they read it over once, and they're like, where's my first lead? And so that's really what we try to hire, are people that kind of have that self-confidence as well.
And so how fast do you see them ramp, and how fast would you cut someone?
So right now, as of the recording of this, my top performing salesperson started 2.5 weeks ago. My second best performing salesperson started 5 weeks ago.
Wow.
So you can usually tell pretty quickly. I would say that in terms of if you hired a rock star, that you could probably see ROI within a week. You'll see them start closing people. You'll see them start having great consultations. Now, on the other side, usually we're probably a little slow on cutting bait. We use a priority system that kind of, if you don't perform, you kind of get pushed out, because within Calendly, you can rotate people based on priority. So if you're closing above a certain rate, you're in that primary rotation. Whereas if you're one of the lower closers, you don't get it until everyone else is full. So usually we can tell within 2 to 4 weeks if someone's not going to work out. And honestly, the coolest thing about the nature of sales, sometimes with like paralegals and attorneys, they don't necessarily see the writing on the wall.
Salespeople know.
Yeah, salespeople know. Like when they stop getting consultations, when their coaching sessions, kind of the tenor of them changes, they understand. And it's kind of the gift and the curse, because if you're an experienced salesperson, you can go get a job. Like,
Yep.
You could erase all the legal stuff off of my resume and someone would hire me to sell something tomorrow.
Yep.
So
yeah, for sure.
they usually, if it's not working out, if it's not a culture fit, if it's not, they're not ramping up and they see it, they're usually the ones that cut bait. We've probably only fired like 1 or 2 salespeople, which is traditionally sales is a very high turnover role and higher turnover industry.
So broad strokes, what do you, and wrapping up, being mindful of your time too, what are you paying a salesperson generally, like on target earnings, if they're crushing it, what do you start them at? And then do you have any like philosophy around like structure?
Yeah, definitely. So the nature of the beast when it comes to really good salespeople is they are risk takers. Where we see attorneys would rather have a super high base and minimal bonus opportunities. On the other side of it, salespeople love the idea of making as much money as possible. They are wired to bet on themselves. So our salespeople, I mean, we pay them well. We pay them $25 an hour-ish, which probably is crazy in a lot of markets. California, that's a full $5 above fast food minimum wage. And that's kind of on line with our lower end paralegals and legal secretaries. And then they have the opportunity based on a point system we have, because bonusing non-attorneys is very weird. So it's not a straight commission, but they have different tasks they must do around signing clients that earns them points. But a top salesperson who hits the top of the bonus scale, which is kind of I'd say top, but it's kind of uncapped. With us, you get to about 20 clients is when you hit like where the tiered structure ends. But if you go beyond 20, you can actually keep making more money. But they would make in the probably 120, 130 range if they maxed out their comp. And these are generally like kind of like frontline salespeople that have some experience, but they're not necessarily haven't been managers or anything like that they can very easily get into the 6 figures.
Nice. So there you go. There's some pay for salespeople, training them, what to expect. So Mark, last question for you. For the firm that's stuck in the messy middle, what's the one piece of advice you'd give them? They come to you, they're in the messy middle, and they don't know, like, how the heck do you get out?
Be your own hero. When you're in that spot, when you're in that space, no one's coming to save you. Hiring Empirical 360 is not going to save you. Making an external hire is probably not going to save you. In that messy middle, you absolutely have to be your own hero. You can't be afraid of making mistakes. Now, can bringing people in, can hiring an agency, can it be a tool? Yes. View it as a tool, though. You are the hero. You're the one that's going to save the firm. You're the one that's going to guide it to where it needs to go. Don't look for those external hires or vendors or anything else to be the one doing the saving.
And that is the last piece. So, Mark, thank you for being on. Amazing stuff. Really good tactical stuff. Again, Mark is setting all kinds of records. So I would go back and listen to it again, take notes. So thanks again, Mark, for being on.
Thanks, Elliot. We'll talk soon.